And we are after hours. I am streaming from the most stringently locked down state in all of the United States, Virginia. For some unknown reason, we're not a hot spot, but we are nonetheless locked down. It has something to do with all of the inconsiderate jerks who went out to Virginia Beach this past weekend and decided they would just mill about in large crowds and spread the disease to each other so that our hospitals could be overrun. That is selfishness in the extreme. And I have a suspicion about what kind of people were making up much of the beach population this past weekend. I imagine it wasn't as many people with our biospirit as you would normally find, but I don't have evidence of that, just a suspicion. But nonetheless, and for everybody who is out there still saying things like, coming fresh from Alex the Fat Jones and still saying silly things like there is no such thing as the Wuhan virus or SARS-CoV-2 or anything of that nature. You need to grow up. This is very childish. I know someone personally who is barely getting over it now and has suffered tremendously from it. There is someone in our community here who has suffered with it. I'm also one removed from someone at an office that I go to occasionally who has it. So it is, it's all around these ideas that I've been having people write me that, well, Alex the Fat Jones has sent reporters to hospitals and they're empty. Don't give me this. This is ridiculous. So no use in trying that. But even though that's going on in the world, we are having a tremendous time, and we were not able to finish up with the absolutely multifariously talented Donald Kent. And it is a real honor to have him back here again today, and a big honor to be back with the great Jared George, as it always is. I see wonderful Raymond is here, Seaver's here, conservative Texas chick is here, Iron Will, Misty, hello, Apollo, Beer Hall Putsch, Jane Doe, a lot of great. Carlisle is here. Great to see you. Greek American, like comedies, big and small. So wonderful to have you all here. We're going to have another fantastic conversation with Donald. We weren't able to finish on tap the other day. So here we are, back by community demand. We have Donald Kent. Mr. George, could you please take us into this conversation?
Yeah, well, on March 12th, Donald here was on tap, and we had some questions that we didn't get to that day, and we figured after hours, our more informal stream, hanging out here with you tonight like this, would be a great venue to finish up with Donald, because we had this far-reaching, really interesting conversation. Of course, it's on our respective websites and on the afterparty.tv. Always go check those. Those are the most protected and robust ways that we catalog our shows. So if you didn't check it out, please go do so after this. But we had this great conversation with Donald. We didn't really get to the latter few questions, which focused more on the white positive art that's out there, and particularly our circles and what's next. So it's some fun stuff to chew on. Again, we're going to take a bit of a break from all the Corona stuff. We appreciate any kind of support and super chats, but please do keep in mind, we're going to try to keep focused on what we're here to talk about tonight for a little bit with Donald, and respect his area of expertise and his great perspective. So now it seems like so long ago, Donald. It was only March 12th. It's still March. We're recording this. We're broadcasting live on the last day of March 31st, yes, 2020. Indeed. But it feels like it was a couple of months ago.
It's the paradigm shift that we've been through has been so extreme that time itself is warped, and it feels so long ago. I've been really anxious to meet up with you guys again and continue this conversation. I thought the last show went really well.
Yeah, we had a great time, and everyone listening, this is always important, but Jason and I know we've both said at different times, and Jason made a video a couple days ago, we're looking at the numbers, and more than ever, maybe because the powers that be know people are home, they have more free time on their hands, they're looking for things. We are being throttled to insane levels. So you guys need to be the algorithm. Like I've said that phrase before, and maybe need to bring it back a little more. Be the algorithm. We can't rely on the algorithms. We need to be peer-to-peer sharing this with people. So please do share this, whether you're listening now live or in replay. Tweet it, gab it. If you have a Telegram group, anything helps. Of course, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to all the gentlemen you see on the screen. Without any further ado, why don't we get a little bit into the conversation? So as I said, we're going to focus on art in our movement and the budding cultural sphere. Jason and I here on Tap and everything that we do, we have a lot of crossover and harmony, synergy with both White Art Collective and White People's Press, all these different points of contact. We're all trying to do a lot in the cultural sphere. But before we get to a little bit of that, we just wanted to start kind of where we left off on the Tap with something that's a little more controversial and juicy, perhaps. And that is this idea, Donald. I know we were just getting geared up to talk about this when we were running out of time on Tap, that our circles talk a lot about wholesomeness and return to tradition, fighting against degeneracy, all that good stuff. We are 100% with that. But it is still the makeup of the artist, the archetype of the artist, to sometimes take a step back from society and observe it, critique it, challenge it. So what role do you think the artist has, even in a more homogenous and healthy white culture? And where's that line we were starting to talk about between a healthy kind of challenge on the one hand versus outright subversion on the other hand?
These are heavy questions for me as an artist, and I think for our movement especially. I hope that everybody in our movement is thinking about these things, and the nature of this conversation, I think, will be very informative to them as we go. So since you contacted me earlier today about this, of course, I've been completely submerged in these ideas and thinking them through. And one thing that comes to mind is I feel that the artist, in a sense, is an island. There's something existentially lonely, I guess, about being an artist, because you have heightened sense of perception. You can see through people very easily. You can see systems, social systems. We generally are very strong at empathizing. We're aesthetically very sensitive people. It's just the way it is. Everybody's born with different learning capacities. And I believe that the arts is one of those. So, for starters, there's this question about in the integrity of the artist. So that being, how much of your voice is your own? And how much are you influenced by society, by history, by art movements and philosophies, ideologies, etc. So, it's a huge Pandora's box. And I think, your question, it sort of begs the question of where is the line between exploration and subversion? So does the artist want to be subversive and challenging, or does the artist want to maintain and protect tradition? So these are two really essential choices, right? And I think that it boils down to the personality of the artist. So you have artists that, say like certain kind of magazines out there, for example, that are just on Western painting, the tradition of Western painting. And that would be, when I say Western, I mean cowboys and the kind of early cowboy aesthetic of Americana culture. And that's a market. For example, there are people who like to paint birds and hunting scenes or historic scenes and these kinds of things. There's, of course, many more that enjoy kind of ancient mythology and these kinds of themes of Europe and olden days. And that's very charming. And I think that the artist who is focused on those forms of art, they have their own challenges, but essentially their goal is to maintain the tradition, is to keep it alive throughout the generations and to kind of pass on the lessons of our culture and to younger generations, etc. A lot of that has to do with technique as well. There are Western art techniques in both sculpture, well, all mediums essentially, that have been hard bought over years of learning and practice and passing them down. Realism in painting, or how to compose an orchestra masterpiece, with classical music. So there's a lot of technical information to master there, and this is a challenge. This is one of the sides of the challenge of being an artist, is mastering those skills, drawing skills, whatever your medium is, dance, music. So there's limitations to that. We're not all going to be Vermeer. We're not all going to be Mozart. We have to use what we have to say what we have to say. And so, we're all filtering this experience of our life through the arts. We're sharing our passions for various topics, whatever they might be. If it's mythology or literature or these kinds of things. But then on the other, you have the artist who is, I guess, and I don't mean to say this in a cliche way, but a rebel. So rebelling against what? The old joke, a rebel without a clue. It's a cliche in the arts. You have all these kids that get out of high school, and their silly feminist teacher taught them, just kind of coddled their ego, and you don't have to learn any skills, and all your emotions are so marvelous, and they set them up for failure when they get to college. They get absolutely brutalized. I've seen many people brought to tears and drop out of the arts by just having their work honestly critiqued. And that's sad, and it's really more the fault of bad art teachers that kind of go along with these cliches. These are kind of shallow art teachers that they're not really artists. They're kind of art wannabes. And that's a problem. So we talked a little bit about that in the last show. But education is this kind of obstacle in a weird way. If you can't get a traditional education, then I don't know, we try to find one.
Donald, let me jump in really quick. I just want to make a small point to have you speak to it just very briefly, and that is that a lot of these so-called artists, certainly the anti-white, they are coddled by their anti-white art teachers in high school, and they get up to university. These are the ones, wouldn't you say, that make up much of the chorus of art is any expression that any person could possibly have, because they want to use that to be able to make so-called art. They don't have to have any talent. They don't have to have any skill. They don't have to excel at something that needs to be studied and learned and perfected. It's just whatever they can produce is art. And so therefore they're going to argue for that definition of art.
You nailed it. It goes back to really, I don't know, I'm going to have to say in the 60s, there was the pop art movement, and it became more about fashion. It was kind of vacuous and insipid. It was just about ego and what you can say at parties and looking good, and the whole Andy Warhol is the Antichrist of art concept that I brought up before. Postmodernism being strictly conceptual art. There are people who kind of think of themselves as ahead of the curve or artsy. Basically, they reject history. They reject the past. And then, of course, why would you reject that? Well, because it's patriarchal, right? And it's oppressive, and, people of color and feminism and this and that and the other thing. And so, a reasonable person would kind of say, well, okay, you do your thing, go do your thing. If you want to do art about menstruation or something, then you go do your thing, or about slavery or whatever your situation is, go do your thing. Whether it's, and let the market decide, whether it's good or bad is not dependent on, your teacher coddling you and your peers coddling you and you all being part of this cult of anti-whites essentially, and anti-Westerners, if it would maybe be a stronger term. So unfortunately, these are the people that control the museums and the galleries and the magazines and the art critics. So it's just like you would see in the sort of the deep state in the Democrat Party. It's a giant monopoly. And that's a crisis for the arts. That's a crisis for Western civilization. And it's a crisis for artists. So, hopefully people can kind of navigate through that. I think there comes a point in an artist's life where they hit a certain age, and they're tired of just repeating the same game and kind of going through the motions of being an artist, etc. The edgy hipster and all that. And they realize, like, I want to make money, or maybe I want to buy a house, or I want to start a family even, and suddenly there's this conflict because they can't survive on the compliments of their friends anymore. So these are, that's roughly a look at that scenario. It's a rough situation.
I'm curious, and again, we could keep in mind where we started with this idea of that line between challenging and subversion, so kind of keep that as a general frame. But to Jason's question that he just asked, it had me thinking about how I'm always harping on with the H word, my big thing, holistic, and how just the same way that people want perfect government or economic structures and they think that's going to change everything, one could argue that a cultural ecosystem of the people who decide what's in museums and galleries, like you were saying, all we need to do is change that, and then the art wouldn't be degenerate. But what I remind everyone is that it's still about the people that make it up, because you just said let the market decide, and I'm just going to push back on you a little bit there, because there are plenty of ideas throughout history that were just dead wrong that still gained popularity, while even scientifically, in more objective kind of things, scientific discoveries that were eschewed or cast off as heresy for centuries or millennia even, the market did not choose correctly in that case. So the issue then is who comprises the market. And then, of course, we're one step away from, well, who's in this territory? Who is this in this quote unquote nation? So what we're doing, and of course, folks listening, we're going to get to our thing and the thrust forward in a little while. But what we're doing, the response, partially the response to what we're doing, aside from the more obvious attacks on our personhood, our biology, our way of life, is we don't have a cultural space. We talked about this a lot last time, and it comes up with a lot of guests. And so what we're doing, what we were speaking about earlier, us, What Our Collective, Tony from White People's Press, and all these other people who are starting to they might be independent artists, make their own art, make their own music, is we're creating our own ecosystem here. We're just at the very beginnings of it, our own counterculture, because you have all these creative people with energy and a voice and a vision who have nowhere to go because it's not supported in the culture, because our quote unquote culture, the main meaty part of it, is not ours. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on that, of how you can still tie it into our bigger perspective and arguments about how we need our own space, how we need to come to this sense of folkhood, and then maybe we could talk about the subversive versus challenge thing too.
Okay, well, let's back up a bit and give it some historic context. So let's go back in history. The arts were, patroned by the king or patroned by the church, and these were the centers of power and culture, and they had the money and the education, and they produced artists and great works of art. That's not to say that other people didn't make art in those days, but that could, quote, be the market, of that day. So that's quite different from the world we're living in today. We don't, we have the internet, we kind of have our wits, we have to figure out how we can frankly monetize what we do. And I know that that's not our core goal, but as an artist, a working artist, a professional artist, supporting a family, when you reach that level, then there's quite a level of success. You want to be comfortable and solid in it. It's not a fantasy, it's something that you want to take very seriously. But circling back to your thoughts about community, I think it's happening organically. I think that it would be great if we had a lot more conversation as a group about these topics. For example, I would love to see, some a kind of a donor class, or people who have finances step up to the plate and get involved in what we're doing. I'd love to see us create our own MTV for white art collective, for example, and that's a fantastical idea, but that's the kind of thinking I think we need to have. We've in Jeff Winston and the bunch of us, we've joked about having a Lollapalooza, of the White Art Collective, and I guess he's got something planned, but that does bring to mind the thought of like, well, a lot of us are anonymous, and it struck me that the day when we can show our faces and do like a huge live concert is the day we won the culture war, and that would be a great celebration, because there'd be nothing to fear, right? There'd be no pushback or any kind of thing for the rest of us, the most of us, to be honest. So yeah, these are interesting discussions, but everybody brings something to it. So I have my ideas, and honestly, the problem is money. Time is money, effort is money. This is an issue. Yeah, a lot of us, we love the arts. We're always going to do the arts. It's part of our being. But I think that if it's going to have structure and a long-lasting quality, we kind of need to institutionalize it in some way. And institutionalized sounds like kind of a sort of a dirty word to a lot of artists. They want to be free, and make their own way and this and that. That's fine, and that's a good thing. But I also feel that what is it that makes this a movement? We all have a common theme. We all have a common experience that we're working through and emoting through. We share in a common angst and stress that we feel in terms of being aware of the problems of our movement and how to get through it day by day. We have this sort of spiritual struggle, if you will, or at least a mental struggle, where we have to choose every day between kind of falling into the black pill zone or being positive and uplifting each other. And that particular topic, I think, is a really central subject for the whole dissident right, let alone people in the arts. But does that speak to any of your thoughts there? Jared?
Yeah, I was just saying hi to Lord Wolfshield in the chat.
Hey, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, these are all important things to be thinking about, and it's not something you're going to come to some grand manifesto in one conversation. But just like Jeff is doing, and Hyreth, they had me on their panel a couple weeks ago. It was great. Actually, speaking of Lord Wolfshield, he was the other panelist. And we were talking about the lines between art and propaganda. These are all, we're just trying to push these conversations out into people's minds and get everyone thinking about it. Just so there's this churning of ideas and energy, which will further this whole thing, specifically the cultural sphere of our movement. Why don't we just make sure that we put a button on this idea of the subversion versus the challenging? Again, you get a lot of people in our circles who talk about the wholesomeness, but there is that part of our spirit. You're going to have the explorers sometimes and the rule breakers.
Yes.
Curious to see your thoughts on that, the balance there.
Yeah, that's it takes a trickster spirit, a sort of a Loki spirit, that you want to manifest there. I think it takes a great deal of creativity to do that, because that is art as activism, essentially. That's art as activism. So there's an artist who's sort of well known. It goes by the name Banksy, who you guys may or may not have heard of, but he's anonymous, and he does paintings in public areas, and then he'll take a picture, and then people will find it, and blah blah blah, whatever. So I always thought like, well, that'd be a thing we could do, as somebody could, kind of go anonymously and do public paintings on wherever, somewhere that is significant. But to create the idea or the awareness of our crisis, of the anti-whites, the agenda of replacement, in ways like, okay, even just the concept of the it's okay to be white posters that put out there, I see that very much as conceptual art. That's absolutely conceptual art to me. It's subversive art. It's a way. No, there's no aesthetics to it per se, right? I mean, it's not like this grand oil painting or something, but it stops people. It throws them off. It puts them out of their context of thinking, what is this poster? Normally you might see, go see Joe's band down at the bar on Friday, or, whatever those public notices are that you see. But instead, it's okay to be white. The question makes you go, huh? And how people respond to it clearly shows whether they are okay with it or are anti-white. And now it's become one of those things that, I think the FBI looks out for stuff like that. If somebody posts that somewhere, oh, we have to investigate it. That's madness, and sickness as well. But I think that you'd have to start off by saying, isolate a certain topic that you want to kind of smash, like a misconception or a prejudice against whites, for example, and then come up with a medium that will work to convey that idea. Don't make it super mystical and difficult to understand, so that it would go over the public's head, because if it is public art, it has to be public art. It has to be somewhat simplistic. It's not hyper sophisticated. And then find a way to do it in a space that is a non-traditional space, not an art gallery. I do agree. I just read something from Philosophicat on Twitter about we need to be
Philosophicat.
Philosophicat, did I say that wrong?
She would want me. I'm the one that was
What did
saying,
I
was saying it your way for about a year.
Philosophicat?
So in penance, my penance is to make sure that anytime I hear someone incorrectly pronouncing it, that I make sure that the lady's name is not taken in vain.
20 lashes with the cat o' nine tail.
Just
anyway,
remember, it's accent on the soft, accent on the wisdom.
Okay.
She's a wise woman. Philosophicat.
Philosophicat. Okay, now I'm feeling it. I'm there. Thank you for the education, sir. And apologies to her. So her point was we need to be pushing our ideas outside of our echo chamber and into the left more. And that's obviously a huge discussion and another direction to take this. But that echoes what I'm trying to say is get art out of the gallery, get it out of the art school, put it in the face of the world and let people come to terms with it. That's really, I think, part of the idea here is to be subversive. It's not just, what you say, but it's going around the institutions that control what you say. So that
we need to subvert the subverters. I was speaking more within our own circles about challenging things, and maybe some of it was hypothetical because, as I said, it assumed a future, more homogenous, healthy society. You're speaking to something more immediate, and which is more important. So I'm glad that you're taking this tack.
And from a white art perspective as well.
Yeah, because certainly taking it to the street is important. Any of us here who have been to a city knows just walking around the downtown of any city, you're inundated with messages you don't necessarily want to see. You don't have a choice when you're in that space. You're being sold ideas and perspectives. We didn't grant anyone permission to do that. So you're damn right. We need to take those spaces back.
Well done. Well done. Yeah. And it would have to be in a way that, like if you go into that space, you choose that space, you have to realize that it's already saturated with media, specifically degenerate media, anti-white media, and then somehow alter it maybe in a way or put something in that environment that changes the meaning and context of it. These are things that, one can kind of just pontificate on. You can kind of muse on how would that be done. And you can take other artists' methods and ways, but then exchange your own ideas and points within those methods. So for example, like the Banksy thing, if instead of drawing, let's say, for example, there's a crack in the wall, he might draw a flower coming out of it and a little girl picking it. And, it's some kind of thing about nature and man living in an urban environment. Okay, I get it. Well, if you were able to take, say, I don't know, cracks in a building or a public sculpture or something or other that people think mundane, and then give it new, fresh meaning, whereas they're looking at it in a new way and it communicates our message. That would be an example of, subversive kind of white counterculture art.
Yeah, I would say, if I just could very briefly, that anything we create anything that our artists create that emboldens or enriches our people is necessarily subversive to the anti-white order. So anything that's making us stronger, anything that's making us spiritually and mentally stronger is necessarily subversive. And we can also go beyond that, as you're both mentioning here briefly. One of the things, going out into the public, putting our stamp on the things that they are doing, drawing right over top of what they draw, if you will. One of the things that I advocated for a very long time, and I gave up on for a little while now, I guess it's been years, maybe about 5 or more years, is that we should, our talented singers and the like, are able to get the popular songs and make spoofs of these things, putting our own verbiage to the tunes that everybody knows now. And the thing that is important about this, and really the only pushback I get, is this sort of idiocy that we've seen for a very long time, and I guess we'll continue to see for a long time in the white positive sphere, that says that we can't use anything that the anti-whites have used. Well, they have stolen everything from us, you imbeciles. Where do you think they got it all? They didn't create anything that they're using. They didn't create all the propaganda, the psychological warfare that they're using. They have stolen it from elsewhere. They have appropriated it and then misused it elsewhere. Things that we would not have, for example, the use of a firearm to murder someone. That would be not something that we wouldn't be thinking when we create something like a tool for self-defense like that, is that, wow, I could use this to just murder randomly. But others do think that way. We should not be afraid. These tunes, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, and Donald can speak to this, and Jeff agreed with me 110%. When we spoke about this a couple years ago on air, and that was that these songs that they put together for mass consumption are not the creation of an artist. They're not even the creation of a band. These massive labels bring in very expensive, very talented individuals, and they all pour over the music again and again and again, and they go over it again and again and again. So by the end, it has very little to do with the original or the person that's going to be put in front of you on that stage. Of course, we've seen acts like Milli Vanilli over the years, where the actual people on the stage aren't even the actual singers. So we should not be afraid, and we should be doing this wholesale in a big way. We should be creating our own work, our own works of art, original pieces, music, etc. Absolutely, but we should also be creating these spoofs of their tunes that very bright, very expensive people have worked on very hard to make sure that it would appeal to the largest number of people, and then put the verbiage of White Wellbeing into that song. Sing it beautifully, make it beautiful. And occasionally people have done this here or there, but there's never been a big effort to it. I know there was one woman that did an amazing job. And what ended up happening? Well, and then I'll pass it back and we continue the conversation. What ended up happening with this woman was that all of these, and I'm sure there were some of these were the idiots from the white positive sphere saying we can't use anything that they've used, or that song's original meaning was XYZ. Well, she turned it around to be something positive for us. But what obviously happened was subversives, anti-whites, saw the power of taking tunes, songs from these popular musicians that are in the mouths of everyone today, and then putting new words into those tunes, so that after I heard these songs, I didn't know what the words were before, but then I went and I looked up what the original songs were, and all that stuck in my mind were the white positive words, not the words. So, and it hit a great many people that way. I saw many people mention this particular woman and the songs that she had spoofed, or I don't know what the proper verbiage is for doing this, but this is something that we could be doing, would radically change the playing field. So if you're an artist out there, you're a solo singer or something, you can get these tunes, get the tune without the vocals in it, write some new words to it that are white positive, and then put that out there. And of course, yes, it's going to be there for a while, but the anti-whites are going to see the value of it and pull it down. So you're going to have to make sure you post it numerous places, you post it again and again. And I'll pass it back for your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it was Mama and the Pepes that did some great spoofs. They have a great deal of humor to their music, and they bring a lighter, kind of a lighthearted approach to our plight and our difficulty. It's the lyrics, if you were to read them, they're wow, oh, that's, cutting and powerful stuff. But the way that it's presented is kind of folksy and funny and enjoyable. So, if that's the kind of music you enjoy, that's the beauty of it, is that we have such an enormous menu of styles of music in our movement. So this is really something for everyone. But while I was listening to you, it made me remember this video that came out. It's called Punch a Nazi, and has this hilarious animation, and the lyrics are kind of all about how anybody who's right wing is a Nazi, and the insanity of that, and that whole Punch a Nazi time that we were in. I was just of course that refers to Richard Spencer and the 2016, somewhere around there. But the video is so well done, and it calls to mind that, and I kind of want to do a call out right now to all animators and all videographers: hook up with some musicians in the White Art Collective now. Get out there, reach out. We need you to collaborate with us together. Let's do it. So my music, I like my music, but I'm on the extremely shoestring budget of video playing. So, my videos aren't anything to see. It's more just about the music. But, other people are putting out some gorgeous videos. Jurius's videos are always fabulous. And there's some people. Frosty Venus was on a while ago. We've got just a number of people. You know who you are, so get yourself hooked up. Reach out to our musicians in our group, and maybe that concept of making our own MTV is not that far off. If we were to get a collection of these things together, and of course they can be housed at the whiteartcollective.com. That's the logical location for that. But I'm seeing things in a much bigger picture. I'm wondering who out there in our sphere has the sort of foresight to see that this is something worth investing in and turning into something bigger and bigger. We're already a movement. We already have an audience. We have a purpose, and we keep attracting more and more and more new people to us. So it's fascinating when somebody new comes into the fold, and they're, I don't know how to say this, but you see them and you realize that, they thought they were the only one out there doing this. And they thought they were so alone. And then once they find us, the White Art Collective, this sense of awe, and I mean the clouds part and the sun comes crashing through. It's a beautiful thing. It's a really, really cool thing. So let's keep going. We're growing, we're getting more people in. We need to expand now. And that's one thing I would say we should do.
Let's talk then about the other big topic we wanted to hit tonight, which is the present moment and going forward. So far, what are your general observations about what's going on artistically right now? What took a step back from a 30,000-foot view, how it's come to be, and what I don't have a specific question, just any general observation, and then we'll get to something a little more specific.
Well, okay. I mean, are we talking about the white positive culture? Are we talking about the coronavirus?
No, we're keeping it on the arts.
Yeah, okay. Because
it's
a lot going on,
It's the culture, our cultural scene, our counterculture.
Okay.
And all of the artists in it and what is forming.
Sure. So I feel that the White Art Collective is a microcosm of white culture in general, but with racial consciousness. I was at a gathering. Don't tell anyone, as I was at a gathering with more than 3 people, and I showed the guys a video of mine that I just put out. It's Become Who You Are. And one of the guys there, he'd never seen my music. He'd never heard of the alt-right or white positive sphere or any of this kind of white identity politics. Completely fresh and new to it. And he's a white guy as well. He's, I don't know, he's probably late 50s or something. And there's a line in there where, we listen to a bunch of the songs. One of the lines is, "It's okay to be white." And he just kind of, sat up straight and says, "Yeah, it is okay to be white." Like, why, how did it get to a place where we're questioning that? That's insane. And gosh, he just embraced the music and he embraced the ideas. So I kind of feel like, yeah, let's stop being shy about this. Let's step out a little bit. I don't know about everyone else. I lost a very, very close, apparently not close enough, friend over one of the songs that I wrote for the White Art Collective. It's a Christmas song, nonetheless, and he lost it. He's in a very liberal kind of environment and blah blah blah, but it was cultish the way that he behaved about that. But anyway, to get back to your question, so I want to first of all thank both of you, because you are creating the frame of the white positive sphere. You know, I don't know anyone else who's come up with this idea within the dissident right of the white positive sphere. This is something I want, what I've, to answer your question, what I observe is a great deal of negativity in our movement, and not within the White Art Collective, but around it. We talked about social commodity value and social pyramids in the last show that when I was on. So, there's this tendency, I think, people who are kind of black pilled, they kind of get off on like shooting everything down and seeing like who can be more negative and who can, I don't 100% get that. I think realism is good, but it's weird. It's kind of a slippery slope in between the two sides. On the positive side, you can have people that are not being critical enough and are kind of, they want to believe in good news, and maybe they're sort of more faith-based, or for whatever reason they might be naive or something of that nature. But the black pill guys, they love to just, oh my gosh, they just like to bully that, a lot. And I think that's low character. I don't think that belongs in our movement. Be realistic, be critical, hold someone's feet to the fire or whatever, and test the ideas, but don't shut them down, without even giving them a chance. Notice your own negative behavior, because I see people within the movement that, the movement is kind of a tapestry or a collection of smaller spheres of like fan bases, like the guys that all follow Joe Schmo, and then there's the team that follow Mary Sue and et cetera, whatever. And whatever the top of that social pyramid says, everybody has to agree with. And it's a social behavior system. It's just a natural human thing. That's why we like, the spheres that we're in. We're drawn to whoever it is that is, I'm a fan of Jason, or I'm a fan of Mark Brahman, or I'm a fan of, someone I can't pronounce their name or something. And you want to, learn from them. They're they're beaming knowledge and ideas, and they've just got something interesting and new, and it brings a lot of flavor to your life and to the movement. So let's step back and let's look at the movement as a kind of a buffet. Okay, you're not going to like everything on the buffet, and you should try different things sometimes. You should challenge yourself sometimes, go into a sphere that you don't agree with for a little while, and just kind of see what's there and see what you can take from it. It's only going to strengthen you. So the flip side of that is kind of like I said, sort of what I said, like the bullying, the kind of black pill bullying, that if you suggest an idea, don't shut me down until like nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know the future. We're kind of navigating this thing. Facts are facts, opinions are opinions. Let's see the difference. But I always say, when the culture war is over, you can go back to bickering about stuff. But right now, we need more unity.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, it's the black pill guys that are not on board with that. And I want to call them over and be like, hey, that's fine. I know you can bench 5,000 pounds and whatever, but just chill for a little bit and enjoy the arts, or enjoy something different. Everybody is their self. We're not all aspects of you. We have this diversity, which is crazy. That the word diversity is such a trigger word, but it's crazy how much we do, and I think that's our strength.
Yes.
If we can take that, like you say, 3,000-foot view. So I don't know. These are some of the things. Yeah.
What about hopes? Maybe you've mentioned this already. We're talking about an MTV, but
Mm.
anything else you'd like to add? I'd just like to make sure we don't miss anything. Hopes going forward about where you want to see this going, ideally, and visions, dreams of what this can be over the next few years. What would excite you the most?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we need some kind of a giant step forward. We do have all the pieces. See, I'm a businessman. I'm a freelancer. You know, I've got a number of different clients and various things I've done over the years. And so what I do is I kind of look at all the cards on the table and I'll say, what could we do with this? How could we put this together into something that is viable and powerful and, you know, can make money? And so, you know, I know that there might be some purists out there that hate hearing me talk like that, but it really is the mark of success and it is the mark of power. And artists especially are taught to kind of hate money. You know, that if you're doing it for money, then you're not a true artist or something like that. That's not really how it works. You know, you're a voice, you are a producer of culture. You moralize our people, you embolden, empower our people. You are extremely valuable. You should be compensated for what you do very well. So that makes sense, right? I mean, look at the look at the artists, if you want to call them that, the musicians, you know, in today's mainstream culture, and what they're producing and how much they get paid to do it, you know. And you're like, well, why couldn't we be in that case? Why not? You see? So that's kind of the thought. So earlier we talked about like some sort of a concert series. Now, to me, at this point, that would have to be online. You know, if there was some form of a platform where, let's say, and people could, you know, we could monetize it, you know, buy a ticket or whatever it is to, you know, open up X channel on X day. And, you know, here's the lineup of the concert, you know, and it could even be live. You know, everybody in the White Art Collective could set up in their studio, whatever that, you know, however that would look like. The technical aspects, we don't know, but that could be worked out. What an incredible experience that would be. Of course, it would be, you know, saved, archived, and then spread that out to other regions, other zones, and let people who don't know what we are find out through music. Because it's a way easier way to come into something is through the culture and music than just kind of like vlogging and philosophical conversations. So this is something, and, you know, part of that relationship again would be videographers. As for myself, you know, I'm an illustrator, and, you know, I really want to see more visual culture. We have memes, you know, I feel like memes are low-lying fruit or low-hanging fruit, in a sense that most people can learn Photoshop. Most people can kind of throw some filters on something and put some words on something. I'm not saying it doesn't take talent to do that well, or that, you know, it's something. I'm not trying to insult Photoshop folks, of which I'm one, but you know, I just really feel like the you know, Tony at the White People's Press is doing the most so far for our movement. I would love to see, you know, 10 more magazines come out, or, you know, comic books come out, have a whole line of comic books and graphic novels just from our perspective. Put those in the libraries around the country, put those in the schools, you know, make Saturday morning cartoons out of that, and take back our culture through the arts, right? So it's everybody can see it. It's not hard to see those things. It always boils down to the question of how do we do it? And that circles back to money, you know. So you don't have to go from 1 to 100. You know, you kind of go 1, 2, 3. You build up. You parse out these ideas in a kind of a slow business plan. So, for example, I just finished a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign for a comic book that I did. So the way Kickstarter works, there's guys that just make a living off Kickstarter. It's crazy, right? It's just getting money from people and then you send them copies of whatever they invested in. So if you start off small, something small, and then you use that to build your audience. Next one is a little bit bigger. You ask for a little more money. You grow your audience. It's marketing. See, as a professional artist, you have to kind of wear 3 hats. You've got your production hat, you've got your marketing hat, and your sales hat. So marketing and sales are different in the sense that sales is just sales, right? Just how the technology of how to get money from A to B. But the marketing part, most artists really, they don't have a lot of experience or knowledge about that. So here's another call out to our community. If you have experience in business, if you have experience in marketing, any kind, come to the table. Join our crew. I'm a publisher just recently came to me, wants to pick me up for his publishing company. He's got enough wits about him to see that I've got talents that he can make money from. You see, so we can share in the pot, we can share the pie or whatever you want to say. So yeah, I would like to hear more discussion about how can we logistically grow this and from a business perspective. I don't know if I'm unpopular for saying that. I don't really think I've ever heard anybody say, how do we make money at this? And there's the black pill people are, oh, you shill. Donald Kent is a shill. So knock him down. But I'm not, shilling for money. I'm trying to make this a realistic and powerful movement, and it needs money, right? I mean,
anyone who complains about the masses out there who were brainwashed and all they learned to do is social signal from the last several decades, especially that march over the last several decades through the culture was well funded. It wasn't a shoestring budget. It wasn't on a shoestring budget of Hollywood and the popular music you spoke about. So just remind them of that if they ever try to hit you back with that.
I've got pretty thick skin. I'm not,
I'm saying it to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody listening.
So maybe we should get a Democrat on the team. They know how to scam the system pretty well. They could probably.
What about pitfalls? Any advice for things to look out for as we grow and try new things?
This is a tricky question. I think that I'm assuming we're talking exclusively to artists here, or just people in the
artists, and as you said, the people helping with the sales and marketing too.
Wow. Okay, the team, if you will.
Everything pushing forward our counterculture, our arts scene.
I would say that this is how it works. You put people in positions that play to their strengths. Okay, so if you have someone who's really good at managerial skills, who knows how to organize things, how to document things, how to communicate with people, this is incredibly valuable, because if you kind of get a bunch of guys together and they're all talking over each other, and it just becomes like a traffic jam and nothing really gets done. It's all idealism. And I would say that there's very many of those projects that kind of fall off into limbo. So that's a warning, don't go into limbo land. Organization is really key. When we think about the arts, we don't think about these things. I'm working on an illustrated novel now. It's the first time I've written tons of scripts and short stories, but not a novel. That's a big endeavor for me. So I have to plot out, all the scenes and use a kind of like a map, if you will, but then I've got a publisher. He comes in and we're having discussions about how can we publish this? Who's going to buy it? What are the means through which how are we going to share profits? All that stuff. So you got to have it documented. It has to be very black and white. And again, the people that know, I don't have that ability. I'm not that guy. You just kind of hold your ground. Go do the thing that you do well. If it's you're just great at writing poetry or video, but you're not kind of a people person, or you can't do the marketing, then someone else has to fill those roles, and we're all stronger for it. So this is really what organization is about. Don't be discouraged. I think that lack of organization definitely breeds feelings of defeat. You feel like, oh, I've tried and tried. There's no sense in trying again. It's just you didn't try right. When I started learning martial arts, my first teacher told me, he said, you know, they say that practice makes perfect. Well, that's wrong. That's a lie. Perfect practice makes perfect. You have to do things a right way in order to get a right, end result. So, anybody who's got the mind and the ability to bring those skills to a giant community of artists, come on down. I think that would be a good thing.
Well said. And as we are getting close to the end of our time for tonight, at least, ladies and gentlemen, with the great Donald Kent, a man that has a ability to think deeply and productively, pragmatically, as well as a magnificent artist of various stripes. We will definitely have him back, and we're going to address your financial gifts right now and questions and comments that you might have, and then any final thoughts that or questions Jared might have for Donald. So let's jump into that. Over here on Cash App, we have the great participant, well known by you all, Zero Talent, and he is financially gifting $5. And thank you so much. Writing, here's an extra magazine for the culture war. Thank you so much, good brother. And we also have the wonderful participant, Tamara, and with her new avatar, looking lovely, gifting $3. Thank you so much. And writing, handsome in black. Well, thank you for the compliment, Jared. I think that is probably for you, my friend.
Well, Donald's the one who has the most is part of the screen.
Well, I have the noir look is what I'm going for.
Jason, that shirt looks black, or is it a dark brown?
It is a dark brown. It is.
We'll all be fighting for the ladies' favor.
We'll be fighting for the compliments.
Oh, we have to get a sword fight going or something.
We will all accept the compliment.
Yes.
Lord Wolfshield over here. Great to see you, a great participant and a great avatar he has as well, actually. Financially gifting $10 over here on Entropy. Thank you, good friend. And it looks like a question here for Donald before we get to the next two financial gifts and statements. And this is, what can Donald tell us about the sci-fi book he is writing now?
Well, first of all, shout out to Lord Wolfenshield, and thank you very much for running that great movie review show you're doing with Jeff Winston. Everybody should tune into that. Maybe a link somewhere, so you should go somewhere for that. I'm crazy about science fiction. I've always been, and this is kind of my sort of the Matrix meets Lord of the Rings meets Blade Runner kind of story. But it is absolutely about white consciousness, coming into white consciousness. I'll tell you something interesting. About a year ago, when I wrote this initially, I sent it to Countercurrents to look at, to be considered for publishing in it, and I got the okay for that. I kind of, I got sidetracked with a bunch of other projects, and now I'm kind of in this place where I've got some time, and I feel like I really would like to get this done. And I don't know, how or where or when I'll publish it. Somebody came to me recently, but the story itself is it is a dystopian future, but it's a future in which essentially there's a white man who is in a kind of a non-white world, but he is a great warrior, and so they use him as a military device to attack a white country, and he gets captured in this white country and has to be de-indoctrinated to learn the true history of the Western man. And then he uses, he's obviously the kind of hero, so they kind of use him to go back against the evil California, other country that is in this kind of, I don't want to say too much about it. I think if I get going, I'll spill all the beans, and that's my weakness.
Yes. We will cut you off right now. We don't want you to give too much away.
Thank you.
We want people to want to pick this up and enjoy your final product. So let's jump on into what we have. The great Caper Mel with her wonderful lion avatar, financially gifting $5 over here on Entropy, and writing, "I'm just checking out Entropy. Thanks for the show, guys." Well, thank you so much for your gift and your kind words. We have here Conrad over on Entropy, financially gifting $5. And I think this is a statement, but we can get you to speak briefly to it, Donald. Comic books used to be about right and wrong, good versus evil. The anti-whites have completely killed the spirit of that and perverted it like they do everything else. I salute the three of you. Thank you. So any thoughts, brief thoughts you want to have to? And thank you very much, Conrad.
Conrad, thank you very much for that. And please go to AmericanZarathustra.com and check out my webcomic there. I would love to have you communicate with me about that. So as you know, since Marvel and DC are making crazy money off the movies, they don't care anymore about the comics. And they're not even owned anymore by themselves. It's Disney and Warner Brothers that own Marvel and DC. So they're not even making their own decisions anymore. So Marvel specifically is pretty much staffed all by feminists. And they are deliberately destroying all our narratives. So deliberately and in the worst way. And not only that, when people don't buy the book or they get online and they protest about it, these so-called creators say, "Oh, you know, fan culture is so toxic and you need to shut up," and blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, in what world does it make sense that, you know, imagine I'm singing a song to 1,000 people that paid money to come to my concert, and they boo me, and then I say, "Oh, no, it's your fault that you." It's so pompous and disgusting. I'm infuriated about it. So that's part of why, that's what drives me to make the art and music that I do is, you know, I can't stand it. I have to fight back. You know, we got to take back our narrative. Amen. So yeah, hang in there, man.
Amen to that. But now we also have, looks like Tamara wanted to make sure that she covered all of us. So the first compliment was handsome and black. And now she came back with a $2 financial gift. Thank you again on Cash App, this time saying handsome and brown as well. So thank you so much. She's covered everybody on the panel, dear lady. And we also have another dear lady right here who has a financially gifted $5 on Entropy. And this is Leah, and she writes, "Great show, much inspiration to take from tonight." So thank you so very much for those kind words and the financial gift. And we have a question on the Tall Kevin widget from Tall Kevin. And he's writes here, "Donald, do you feel those in our sphere who identify as, quote, art connoisseurs use it as a status symbol in order to place themselves intellectually and culturally above those who do not follow the art scene?" Well, if I could very briefly before Donald jumps in here, I'll just say I haven't seen anything like that. And in our sphere, the thing about the white positive sphere, the thing about serving white well-being and going free is that it doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't matter what your talents are. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. Whether you are a neurosurgeon who works only on the tiniest parts of the brain and it takes 75 years for you to learn all about that, or you work on the water or the gas lines that come into the house, all of that is equal here. You are equally valued if you are a member of Western Kind, if we love and embrace you, and you are a valuable member of our community if you are a producer, if you are a participant, if you are shouldering your load. And that's how we view everybody. I've never seen that, which is not to say that it couldn't happen, but where you do see it, of course, is it's absolutely rife throughout the anti-white world, where they, especially with this so-called art, where there's nothing to actually see, and you need to have somebody in an art magazine or something of this tell you that there's meaning there, and then you suddenly will have all of these chattering birds. Once they learn what they're supposed to think and feel about a thing, then they sneer at the rest of us who look at the nonsense and say there's nothing there, and they say, well, that's just because you just don't know. Yeah, so you see it there. But Donald, please for a moment speak to that as well, that question.
Beautifully said, very beautifully said. What I think he's referring to is a norm among the left. It's an excuse or a shortcut to actually thinking or actually being cultured, is to pretend that you know something so that you can look down your nose on everybody else. And that type of spirit is just all through the entire left wing. That kind of, I know more than you, you're just a dumb redneck or something or other, and I'm cultured. And especially when it comes to postmodernism, when it's, it lacks any artistic integrity. Oh, you don't see it? Well, that you must be low culture, something like that. So the edgy artist, hipster, rebel, it's a myth. He or she is the exemplar of liberal conformity. In the fine arts, there is a set number of visual components and themes that just get rotated ad nauseum. Like these so-called left-wing artists, they have a really small deck of cards, just a couple little cards that they play over and over. But every time they play them, everyone around them, oh, it's so brave and stunning. It's so meaningful. And they, when I was in art school, I had a professor that had this hilarious handout with all these like super pretentious phrases that you could match together and create big, empty statements, just bloviating about how intellectual you are, and so that you can impress your friends at an art gallery, and that's the kind of thing. So I want to say quickly on an aside, there aren't really a lot of, or very, very little art critique scenes happening in the right. And I would say that Unconscious Theater on YouTube by Richard Spencer and Mark Brauman is the only one that I'm really aware of that deeply, deeply goes into aesthetics and studying art. And, although I don't agree with Richard on everything, or maybe Mark on everything, they're extremely intelligent and very sincere about it. So granted, their show does have a certain twist to it where they're interpreting racial esoteric moralization. But I would say, that's like for my buck, that's the top channel to go to if you want like really good analysis of film specifically.
And you mentioned on White Art Collective that you're seeing more of this, like the Lord Wolfshield show about film, correct?
Right, that's coming up. So I would check that out. I did mention at some point about maybe going through some classical paintings with you guys, and me teaching the viewers how to critique art, and then, kind of open these things up. And that would really, really give people a wonderful, rich aesthetic experience. And then that just kind of like fans the flames of Western kind. It gives us that strong sense of history and identity throughout time. So that could be a cool thing to do.
We also have people in the chat asking about White People's Quarterly. So they are beautiful.
There you go. Thank you.
We're physical copies. And you can get them in Europe. Someone was asking. And Europe and Diaspora, too, is another magazine I'd mentioned on a show about a month ago. I was helping them get the word out. I was sending people free PDFs, and they're getting together a physical magazine, too. So Europe and Diaspora is another one that's coming up.
Great to hear it. Great to hear it.
Jared, do you have any final question for Donald that he can cover in the final 5 minutes here?
Well, I think that we've kept it nice and tidy, and we hit what we wanted to hit. So probably best to get out on top. Donald, you're in your element here, man, and you're a real pleasure to talk to about these things.
Thank you so much. I'm a massive fan of yours. Yeah, I have work in both those issues. I'll be putting something in every issue every chance I get. That's a very high quality magazine, very high quality.
It is. It is. I have to say, with Tony, him and I are working on a project I've alluded to a little bit. And then I've also been privy. He gave me a sneak peek of another thing he'll probably be announcing soon that's going to come out first before the book project that I helped to get together with him. And his layout skills, and he in these books and magazines, he's really making them works of art, things of beauty in and of themselves. So Tony, the publisher of White People's Press, which is behind White People's Quarterly magazine, and some more publishing projects coming out. Tremendously talented guy, and yeah, I mean, highest quality stuff. And there's some.
That's some of my work. That's one of my articles right there. Yeah. So
I have a poem in the first and second issues as well, and I think he's working on the third one as we speak. So yeah, a lot going on. Like we said, White Art Collective is a whole world. Go check out whiteartcollective.com and get into everything they're doing. But yeah, I think we should leave it there.
Fantastic. Well, this has been an absolutely splendid show. It's been a splendid time together. And we're so grateful for your service to White Wellbeing, Donald. And so any final thoughts you have, let folks know what you're working on and where they can find you. I'm now chancing it. If a guest who comes on the show has a YouTube channel, then I am putting that link directly in the description below. So you will be able to find Donald's YouTube channel. But for his other links, you will have to look to the websites that Mr. George and I share and have individually for any other links, because this channel received strikes for links outside of YouTube. So Donald, please.
Wow. Well, first of all, I kind of have to say I do it for you guys. You know, I do it. I was inspired so much by both of you in the past several years that I've been watching your show, and then getting to know people in the White Art Collective. I do it for them. I do it for you. And as I get to know more people, I get more subscribers, and I communicate with as many people as I can. My Facebook is blowing up, by the way. So if you want to look up Donald Kent on Facebook, that's very edgy. I'm very edgy over there, much more than on Twitter. But it's for you. I love you. I care about you. I want to help you. And I'm just giving back all the energy that you're giving me through these artistic channels that I have. So let's work together. Let's talk more. Let's get together. Don't be shy. Get out there and get involved. You know, the time is now. Really, we got to make a move.
Amen to that. Very well said. And thank you for coming on tonight. Mr. George, final thoughts.
Well, as I said, it's just a pleasure to speak with you, Donald, and I love talking about this stuff too. So we'll have more occasion to do this and make things happen, push things forward. I so much now. I have a little more time on my hands, and I'm sure a lot of us are in this position. And now it's almost overwhelming, all this stuff I've wanted to get to. So we all have to take a breath and prioritize. But it is time to get yourself in shape. If you're an artist, take the time to work on your craft and really think about how you want to make your mark and how you want to contribute to everything that we're doing. So yeah, my site is thegreatorder.com, catalog of all that I do and ways to support and get in contact. I also share some mainly visual artists on something called Beautiful Things, a page there as well. I'm trying to beef up my YouTube channel. So I've been, as you might have seen this past week, starting to put up more clips from shows, my old Red Ice episodes, working on a new one as we speak for that too. And of course, for Jason and I together, the afterparty.tv is our site that is the hub of all these streams and also the community projects that come out of it. Jason now regularly on Friday nights features different music artists on what's become known as Chuck Martell's Garage Party.
Right.
That's a bit of a little new thing in the TAP universe. And those, of course, are also put on the afterparty.tv. It's anything we do in this realm is cataloged there as well. And we try to make it a little more robust how we save the videos there. So anyone, especially if you're new, please do go to our websites, because more so than social media, we're trying to make those really the first thing you think of. And if you don't see us on social media, or even if you do, but you're wondering, hey, has this guest ever been on their show, or have they ever addressed this topic? The shows are very well tagged. All the guests have links. You know, we really tried to be meticulous, as is our want, as our biospirit. Please do go check out the afterparty.tv and our respective websites, and you'll really have a lot to sink your teeth into. We do love and appreciate all of your support. We're all in this together. And look out on our different social media and on our sites as well for upcoming shows. We'll be putting together the next TAP soon and see how else we want to be communicating and keeping up with you all during this strange time of the plague. But we hope all of you and your families are staying healthy and safe. And I'll give it to you, my friend Jason, to take us out.
Thank you, good brother. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a financial gift from Tall Kevin, which has a question to Donald, and then he can think about perhaps a one-word answer to this question as I read a final financial gift over here on Cash App. So, Tall Kevin, thank you so very much for the $3 gift. And he writes here, Donald, where do you feel is the best art museum you have ever been to? And I guess this is worldwide, Donald. So if you have one, and I think, just think about it, hold your breath for a moment. Tall Kevin goes on to say, me personally is the Old Masters Museum in Berlin, the Galerie, I guess. And think for a moment, and I will read this over here. Goodness Greatness, one of the best names out there. Financially gifts, $7. Thank you so very much. And writing, NWG and TGO, thanks for your work and great guest. You are so very welcome. Donald, what is that gallery?
The Frick Museum on Lexington and 77 in New York City. It's kind of down the street from the Metropolitan, which is my other favorite. There you go.
Magnificent. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you all who contributed some financial gifts, everybody who asked questions and participated in the live chat, made comments. We appreciate you all so very much. It has been another exhilarating time with you all, and be safe, everyone. Now, tomorrow at, I guess it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's going to be, what, 7 in, or 6? And 7 in Germany. I'm going to be playing it's going to live stream and premiere on my channel the video of my speech to Patriotic Alternative. That'll be just before PWR. So if you are already going to be sitting down for PWR, sit down an hour early and check out the video of my speech, and then follow right over, and I'll be there on PWR with Mark and crew. And we will look forward to seeing you all at that time. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.